there is a little bit of background noise, I'm afraid, but not too much, hopefully. Not too much at all. So, what I want to talk about is why we keep falling for these horrible people that ruin our lives. And I don't understand. I kind of spent a lot of time wondering why? Why? Am I that bad a person? You know, why do I deserve this? Am I really that bad? And it's not about you at all. At all. Um, Now, you know, when you start dating again and you think it's different, it's great, you know, I've got a new partner and they're lovely, and you know the warning signs, and they don't have them, and they're compassionate and they're generous and they're lovely to you, and they really want you to be the best you can be, and your bad luck has finally ended, and you finally stopped falling for these idiots that just ruin your life time and time again, and you're happy, you're happy, and you've broken the cycle, and you know it's good for you, it's good for your kids, and everything's wonderful. And then 6 months pass and it's just like the trauma just comes in and smacks you upside the head. The person that you thought was lovely and nice and kind and good for you has suddenly just morphed into this horrible person and this narcissist and this person that will only think of themselves. And how did we get here again? And why does it keep happening? Because it does keep happening and it's a cycle. So the first thing to look at is you're focusing on red flags. Yeah? So you're looking for those red flags. But what comes before a red flag is a yellow flag. We forget about the yellow flags completely. It's irrelevant. You know, we're just looking for red flags. That's all we're looking for. And yellow flags are the precursor to the red flags. So they will give us the better kind of guide of what's going on. Because when we start dating someone new, our brain just kind of releases this tidal wave of chemicals that evoke passion and connection and intimacy, and it's the honeymoon period, and it's the neuroscience of falling in love, and it's as fascinating as it is alarming, because before we know it, we are like hooked chemically, physically, emotionally into this new relationship. And it's really easy to identify the significant areas of concern. They're the obvious ones, the ones wrapped in caution tape, you know, the ones that we see, but we forget that most narcs don't reveal their true colours straight away. And that would just be too sloppy. They'd never get away with it. Instead, they bait and lure you with their illusion of kindness, and they rescue us with their natural confidence. And like it or not, seasoned narcs are not stupid. They are calculated, they are intentional, and they know that they're in this game for the long haul, because they know how to manipulate you and scam the rules so that the game is in their favor. So let's look at some of the yellow flags, okay? So some of the yellow flags that they will come up with will be nasty comments about past partners. Lots of talking about, you know, how well they've done, how amazing they are, how fantastic they are. Hyper focus on material possessions. So it's all about the stuff. It's about the labels, the car, the, you know, getting the house perfect. It's all about possessions and status. Talking lots of talk about reputation, about status, about, you know, how other people should look up to them and respect them. And when they get disrespected, it's like their whole world has ended. They just kind of go a little bit nuts, but not overly nuts, but just enough nuts to deal with it. And they're very critical of other people when they don't agree with their thoughts. And to be honest, I feel like they are very critical of other people regardless, because they are they have their own opinion and nobody else's opinion matters. So, you know, they will make comments about what somebody is wearing. They will make comments about what somebody is doing. They will make comments about what somebody has. And those comments are normally negative. And they act as though the rules do not apply to them. They frequently interrupt you. They literally butt in halfway through a conversation, and they give unsolicited, 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 and unwanted advice. You don't need advice. Sometimes you don't need advice at all. Sometimes you just need a hug and for everybody to say it's going to be okay. But sometimes they can't help themselves but to foist their opinions onto you and expect you to jump to take them, and then kind of get critical when you don't, because you're independent. You've earned that independence and you want to do things your way for a change. But they slowly kind of weigh you down. Now, the yellow flags do not guarantee narcissism, and they can show you a warning pattern. And the more symptoms, then the more yellow flags that they display, the greater the chance that you are dealing with an arc. And you don't have to put a label on somebody to be able to say, oh no, they're no good for me. You can just say, this isn't working out. And it's okay to say that, because sometimes I feel like we are trained to go with the flow. We are trained to not make a fuss. We are trained to keep the peace. We are trained to play nicely, share everything, give of what you have. And you're not supposed to sort of tattletale on anybody else. You're not supposed to, sort of dob anybody else in. You're not supposed to be a rat. You're not supposed to rat other people out, or, anything like that. And we're trained from childhood, from tiny, that all of those things are bad. But what about when something isn't working for us? What about when it's not working? It's not working out, and it's not the relationship that you thought it was going to be. And it's absolutely okay. And this is my permission to you. This is absolutely my confirmation and permission to say, if you are dating somebody and you're starting to see warning signs that are making you feel uneasy, then you have every right to say, enough. I'm done. I don't want to carry on with this relationship. Okay? So that's okay. Now, another thing that you might find is that you are attracted to the chaos, because sometimes when everything's really fast paced and it's really intense, it makes you feel alive. Everything is like, whoa, 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 and it's great. But, despite the anguish, dealing with a narc can be exciting, and you don't get bored. You don't get bored at all. Sorry, cattail. You don't get bored at all. You get a constant whirlwind of emotion and intensity and just impulse. You never know what they're going to be like each day. You never know whether they're going to have a good day, whether they're going to have a bad day, whether they're going to be condescending, whether they're going to be blissful, whether they're going to be loving, whether they're going to be fun. You just don't know. Every day when you wake up, it's a different day. And oftentimes throughout the day, it will keep changing pattern. Now, the question to ask is, why would anybody be attracted to that kind of chaos? And don't we all want healthy and secure relationships, and know that we deserve respect? And the answer, of course, is really complicated. Logically, knowing something doesn't mean that we take the appropriate action to make that happen. So you could say, for example, knowing that alcohol is a poison and is not healthy for you to continually use alcohol as a means of pleasure or a means of escape, or however you use it, it doesn't stop you doing it. Alcohol is a poison. We know that. Drugs are a poison. They can kill us. Same as alcohol. Alcohol can kill us. Does that stop people taking drugs? No. So knowing something doesn't necessarily mean that you will just kind of do it. So lots of people return to narcissistic partners because when they move on to a normal relationship, it feels kind of boring, in comparison, because they're used to such a rapid up and down, and this is where the trauma bonding kicks in, because that's what it causes, that hurricane of emotions, that living on the edge, that never knowing quite how the day is going to play out. That's what causes the trauma bond. And you mistake that volatility for love and desire, and the lack of the tornado, it feels more threatening than the tornado itself. And it's about what your brain considers to be normal and safe to enable you to survive, because your brain is geared for survival. That's it. Okay, now another one is that you're trying to recreate and maybe rescue your childhood, because our behavior from the time that we're born to the time that we're sort of, between 8 and 10 is formed through intergenerational patterns, because your parents or your caregivers give you their values. They teach you their values. They teach you their normal. And if you have come from an environment where one parent is narcissistic, your brain automatically assumes that that situation is safe. It's not right. Your brain is wrong, but it has to be retrained. But when you are a child of a narcissistic parent, when you grow up, quite often you'll find that you are trapped into an adult relationship with a narcissist. And on a first impression, it would be baffling as to why you would do that. But, why would you want to go back into that kind of hell? But the answer is really complicated, because when we have unmet needs in childhood, it's like security, safety, love, compassion, empathy, all of those things that help us grow and help us turn into rounded human beings, then those needs don't disappear when we get to adulthood. And oftentimes those need to fulfill those pots, if you like, of empathy, compassion, love, all of those things. We tend to become critical of ourselves and others, and that carries on the longer that those needs remain unmet. And the attraction towards a narcissist is very much a subconscious process, and we fall in love with partners that mimic our caretakers when we were young, under the distorted impression that we can somehow fix them. And through this fixing, we kind of believe that we can fix our childhood. So what we don't realize is that we can't fix them. They are unfixable. They are broken, and it is not our responsibility to fix them. Now, that's why children of alcoholics have a much higher likelihood of marrying alcoholics, and it's what these people know. And we're attracted to familiar because that's what our brain says is safe. And most of us want to believe that we marry someone who is utterly independent from the family that we grew up with. An honest inventory often shows that we choose partners who closely resemble our caregivers when we were children. So how often have you thought, I've married this person and they're just like my dad, or I've married this person, they're just like my mum? Because that's what you do. Your subconscious is drawn to these characters because you are recreating your childhood pattern. Now, breaking the pattern, breaking that cycle of narcissistic relationship takes time and willingness and persistence, because you cannot heal from this overnight. It's impossible. It is too deep. But the journey can be highly productive and totally rewarding. Totally. Because if you're still not sure why you're attracted to narcissists, it's time to really do some soul searching and think about the potential reasons behind that. Look back into your childhood, look back into your teenage years, look back into what kind of environment you grew up in, and what connections can you draw between your previous partners and your current partner. Because even though we tend to focus on differences, there may well be some obvious similarities that we're just not consciously seeing, but subconsciously it's drawing us to them. Now, if you're still not sure, it might be time to reach out for some professional help, because working with a therapist, a counselor, or a coach will help you uncover these answers, and at the least it will help you see your situation more clearly. Now, I do need to give credit for this at the end, because I did borrow some material from elsewhere, which gave me framework to work with here, but I'll carry on. Identifying the pros. So, even though it sounds really foreign, but it's imperative that you learn how narcissistic relationships have positively served you in your life. Okay? Did they provide a powerful sense of protection and safety? Were you confident? Sorry, cattail again. Were you confident that um, you were comforted knowing that you were with someone who seemed so confident and assured? Were you with partners that impressed your friends and family, or were you rebelling? Or did you have a partner that you knew that somebody in your family would hate, and you kind of got in so deep you can't get out? The advantages may be more insidious, and by being with a narcissistic partner, did you get to blame the other person for the distress in your life? And did you benefit from avoiding focusing on your own flaws and setbacks? Because let's face it, there are two people in a relationship, and we have to own our own part of it. And I am not victim blaming at all, because abuse is abuse and it is wrong. However, there are always positives that you can take from any lesson, okay? So when you have to try and look for the good points in a narcissistic relationship, it's not fun. It's a horrific cycle. It's painful to go through that process, which is why we suggest you don't go through it alone, because it is really hard. And there are reasons why you keep falling into the same patterns, and you owe it to yourself. And if you have children, you owe it to your children to learn how and why you're finding yourself stuck in these type of relationships. And you need to identify the how and the why so that you can break that cycle. Now, changing patterns always means that you have to let go of something, you have to lose something. And by letting go of the narcissistic patterns, what will change? You need to look through that. And will you lose the comfortable chaos, because that's what you've become comfortable with, and you've become comforted by that chaos? Will you have to kind of like go back out into the dating pool, and oh my gosh, finding a new partner, that's just horrifically bad. Will you miss the person who at times, because they do still give you good times, and they can seem so kind and magical and intelligent, but sometimes you just get to the point where the bad outweighs the good, and you've had enough and you can't take any more. And you have to consider going no contact with the narc in your life, because even though it's harsh, the only true way to change the cycle is by leaving the cycle. That's it. You have to step away from the cycle. Choose whether you're going into a rectangle, a square, a triangle, a hexagon, whatever, pentagon, don't care. But you need to move away from the cycle. And the no contact approach actually enables you to recharge your batteries and move on from the abuse. If you have a sinking feeling that something is wrong, don't ignore your intuition. That is your gut instinct telling you that this is a wrong for you. And your intuition is looking out for you. It's trying to protect you and keep you safe. And it's your job to listen. So how many times have we had a gut feeling about something and ignored it? Yeah? It's time to start to listen. And spend some time alone. I mean, do you literally leap from one relationship to another? Have you ever been truly alone and able to say that you are truly independent? And some people really can't stand to be alone, but there's a reason for that. So you need to identify the reason, and you need to establish what that reason is, and you need to deal with that. Because when you are leaping from one relationship to the next, you are not giving yourself the time that you need to work out how to have the best relationship that you can have. And sometimes the desperation fuels the toxic relationships because it highlights your need for validation and attention. And spending time alone can be scary, and it can also be really profound. And if you've never done it, you deserve to build a healthy relationship with yourself, because until you learn to love yourself, you will never be able to truly love anybody else. You have to be able to learn to love yourself first. And when you love yourself, you will not tolerate those people that will seek to manipulate you and undermine you and use you, because you will be too strong for them. So if you do decide to go back into the dating scene, if you've done the self-love, if you've done the work that you need to do, if you've repaired the damage that has been caused by the toxic relationship, then you will be armed. You will be bulletproof. You will have this shield around you, ready to find someone who treats you with the love, respect and kindness that you have always deserved. And you need to be kind to yourself, because breaking free from the narc abuse is draining. It is crucifyingly hard, and you will make mistakes along the way, and you may even fall back into old patterns, and you may even be tempted to contact them. And you need to know that this is perfectly normal, and you are on your journey, and you don't have to be perfect, and you don't need to have to be absolutely follow every step, word for word. You are allowed to make mistakes, but you can reap the benefits of healing. And being kind to yourself means being willing to learn, reflect, and most importantly, forgive. So I have a very strong opinion about forgiveness. Forgiveness, I don't believe, is for the other person at all. I don't think you should forgive them for anything. As far as I'm concerned, they can rot in hell. And I'm sorry if that's controversial, but that's how I feel. And in my opinion, and this is purely my opinion, when you forgive, you are forgiving yourself. You are forgiving yourself for making the mistakes of the past. You are forgiving yourself for being too trusting, for being too naive, for believing them. You are forgiving yourself for falling for what they put you through. You are forgiving yourself for not listening to your gut instinct. You are forgiving yourself for not listening to family and friends that tried to warn you. You are forgiving yourself for allowing the situation to continue long past the point where you realized that it was the wrong thing, the wrong relationship to be in. You are forgiving yourself for submitting your children to this. You're forgiving yourself for everything, because today is a new day, and you get to wake up with a clean slate every single day. So whatever time of day you're listening to this, when you go to bed tonight, when you wake up in the morning, you'll have a clean slate. You'll have a new day, and you'll have a new opportunity to change your life. Okay?